Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Wow, the betrayal by Mel Kiper Jr. The betrayal by Mel Kiper Jr. I thought we were all cool with Mel Kiper Jr.
No.
The godfather of mock.
Well, no, he's getting back at us in particular because we ripped him for not having the mock where he used to have the mock, and now he's mad.
Son of a...
Because Field had the mock, and now so he was gonna get his pound of flesh.
Did we ever figure out what happened? Like, did Mel Kiper Jr. not do a final mock? And now he wants to come out and give grades? Wait, you don't get to give grades if you didn't put out your final mock. Am I wrong on this?
So when was his last mock?
He probably has earned the right to give grades. He is Mel Kiper.
Well, put yourself out there.
Well, when
Mel
was his
Kiper,
last mock? He did a last mock. It wasn't the day like it used to be the day of the draft.
He had a final big board. His 6 days. Maybe we missed it. It's possible we missed it. Someone had it like 6 days ago on the 23rd. But the 23rd is not the 25th. Okay. Anyways, we're going to get to Mel Kiper's damning grade of the Vikings here and see if he makes any good points. But a shout out to our friends at Quick Trip, Judd Zulgad, the official convenience store and gas station of Purple Daily.
And a great place to pick up everyday items like milk, bread, produce. You're looking right there at what Quick Trip has, and you're saying to me, Judd, that's not a Quick Trip. That's a grocery store. That is convenience personified. And I'm telling you, nope, I actually shot that film. That footage is from a Quick Trip. This is everything Quick Trip has to offer, and it is convenience, especially when you don't want to bother with said trip to the grocery store. Let's say you're filling up on gas at Quick Trip, and you're like, I'd like to get a cup of coffee, but I need some grocery items. What am I going to do? You're going to go to Quick Trip because it's quick, it's easy, and they always offer great value. Quick Trip, the presenting sponsor of Purple Daily, and our thanks for that.
Amen. Also, a lot of you have flocked to the Score North shop, scorenorth.com/shop. We've got the official Purple Daily JJ to JJ designs. You can also just scan the QR code if you're watching this on YouTube, and it'll take you to scorenorth.com/shop. All sorts of other things. I saw a couple people with reckless speculation hooded sweatshirts inside the Fillmore on Thursday night. Some Victory Monday swag as well. But yeah, get your Purple Daily JJ to JJ swag, hooded sweatshirts, crew necks, and t-shirts over at scorenorth.com/shop. So, okay, Mel Kiper gave the Vikings one of his lowest grades of any team, a C+ for their work over the weekend.
Yeah.
And here's what he writes. My qualm about GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's draft class has more to do with mortgaging the future of this Vikings roster.
No.
The Vikings have just 3 selections next year, a first-rounder and 2 fifth-rounders, with a rookie quarterback under center. Are they really in position to go all in right now? C+. They're all in. No future avenues to add talent to this team.
May I do a Mel and say, Mel. What
Todd.
you're missing here? Mel, what you're missing here? All right. First of all, I saw that, and I actually, if you go to VikingsWire.com right now, you'll find a Zulgadian piece just published about this very topic. This was a very deliberate draft. This was not about going all in now by any means. What this was all about was adding absolutely instrumental pieces to a plan that, as I continue to say, is ready to pop in 2025. So this is a part of the puzzle. Like, for anyone who thinks, well, they're going all in right now, much like with the Timberwolves, you're not paying close enough attention because you're trying to serve too many masters. What the Vikings are doing here, I think, is actually very, very smart. And I did go around, so I saw Mel's grade, and I thought to myself, that grade seems rather harsh for a team that just got a quarterback potentially, but we all agreed he was one of the top ones available, right? Mm-hmm. And then traded up, and yes, we could argue about the price, but they got the guy that was considered to be the premier edge rusher. I'll say it again, edge rusher. These guys are hard to get. And that C+ was only also echoed by Yahoo Sports. Bleacher Report, which uses their scouting department to grade, A-. The Washington Post, with the very well-respected Mark Maskey, A-. Fox Sports, A. CBS, B+. And I guess the Ringer agreed on the C+ as well. But I think the C+ misses the point of the draft. I think what that says is I'm scanning the drafts, and they didn't have a lot of picks, and I'm not sure where this team is yet. So I'm going to perceive that they are making an all-in move at the wrong time. Au contraire, Phil Mackey, I think they are making this move at the exact right time, and that there is, as I think we're going to discuss on this very episode, there's more to come.
As someone who got a lot of C+ in high school and college and turned out just fine, let me just say, C+, there's nothing wrong with C+, okay? You can make a great career in the C+ avenue range. For the Vikings to go out and get their quarterback of the future, get the best edge rusher in the draft, who is the favorite, by the way, to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, at least on April 29th. He is indeed the favorite. Dallas Turner is to win the Rookie of the Year. The Vikings are in position here that they didn't have to load up on a bunch of different spots, and they don't have a lot of roster holes where they needed to have as many dart throws as possible. And I think we sometimes get so obsessed with the number of draft picks a team has, a la Rick Spielman, and then those picks, the majority of them, more than 75% of them, don't turn into anything. So are we convinced that if the Vikings had second and third and fourth over the next two drafts, every single one of them was going to be a stud, every single one of them was going to fill depth? Look at the 2022 draft class. Lewis Cine is probably going to be cut. Andrew Booth is a borderline player at this point. It's just because you have those picks doesn't mean they're always going to turn into some type of depth or some type of star. It's going to be very small if that happens. So if this roster is ready-made, you don't need to have so many bites at the apple to try to continue to build your roster up and down.
Yeah. I mean, okay. First of all, before I address the godfather of mock here and his C+ grade, I just want to say we need to ban these grading exercises the Monday or the Sunday after the draft is over. It's such a dumb exercise, and I get it. It's content. I mean, hell, we're leading an episode with it here on a Monday, so we got hooked into this as well. But you're not going to know. You ever go back and look 3, 4, 5, 10 years? If you literally Google, and I won't pick on Mel, you can Google any draft analyst and say, 2018 draft grades. And I mean, we did this exercise the Monday after the Seahawks drafted Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, and someone gave them a D or an F, a prominent website for select. Why would they draft Russell Wilson? They just paid Matt Flynn, right? And okay, well, that turned out to be a great pick. So, it's one of the most pointless content exercises to be putting a grade, analyzing it, talking about the value and stuff. That's great, but on this take specifically, I'm going to read this again, okay? My qualm has more to do with mortgaging the future of this Vikings roster. With a rookie quarterback under center, are they really in a position to go all in right now? With all due respect, Mel, this is one of the dumbest draft takes I've ever read in my 20 years doing sports media for a living. First off, the Vikings have a 1st-round pick next year, and they're going to get a 3rd-round, and maybe even 2 3rd-round comp picks, so they're going to have more than 3 picks. Secondly, are we saying, because to Declan's point about the whiff rate, especially the later you get in the draft, are we saying that, well, because they don't have some 4ths and a 2nd, that they are somehow all in with no avenues to land players on this roster? When did we become so obsessed with needing to have 4th-round picks and they don't have a 6th or a 7th-round pick next year? Therefore, they're all in. Never mind the fact that they have the 4th most salary cap space of any team. They have over $100 million in effective cap space for the 2025 offseason. And this is the thing, if you pull up, to illustrate Declan's point from a few minutes ago, if you pull up a list of Vikings players drafted in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. Yes, you'd like to hit on some, and they have. Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter, Kirk Cousins with Washington was a 4th-round pick. You do need to hit on some of those players. But if you have your 1st-round pick and you have a ton of cap space and you already have a pretty damn good roster, especially on offense, are you desperate to have the Rick Spielman plan where you have 5 or 6 picks on day 3 anymore? I don't think so.
or the 2022 Quasi plan. This is why I didn't like what he did. He was trying to accumulate more picks, and my point is, okay, but if you unless you know exactly what you're doing, if you stand pat, or in the Vikings case on Thursday night, get aggressive and move up. You have now potentially taken a really good swing at filling two huge spots.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer that.
So you're gonna be, man, I know that the Vikings just added maybe the best defensive player on the draft board in Dallas Turner, and JJ McCarthy ideally is like a 10-year starting quarterback here. But damn, we're really gonna miss the 4th and 6th and 7th round picks that landed us Vidarian Lowe, Jalen Naylor, Nick Muse, who never plays, Jalen Twyman, Zach Davidson, Janarius Robinson, Harrison Hand, Kenny Willekes, Nate Stanley, Brian Cole II, Kyle Hinton. Like, oh, what are we going to do without Kyle Hinton and Kenny Willekes in 2025? So, Mel, sorry, I can't get with this narrative.
But problem for Mel is, like, he's trying to, and a lot of these guys and gals are trying to grade every single draft, and they don't have the time to look at what a team is doing too. Like, this isn't in 2008. The Vikings, on the precipice of being very good, traded away a bunch of draft capital for Jared Allen. So he essentially became their first-round pick. I'm sure you could look at that and say, wow, they gave up a lot. They gave up a ton. But you know what? It worked out to damn near perfection. Unfortunately, didn't win a Super Bowl. But the problem is these people don't have time to actually digest what a team is doing. This is a case where, to what you were just saying, Phil, next March, this team is going to have cap room. They can then add some of the pieces that they couldn't take shots on in the draft through upper echelon free agency. This looks to me like a well-constructed thought pattern of a build for a team that in 2025 they're trying to win a championship with. So I think Mel sits down. I mean, there's 32 teams. He sits down with all of these things and he looks at their draft only. Yeah, he doesn't have time to look at free agency. He doesn't have time to look at the big picture. But the big picture, in my opinion, in fact, you know what? I did a grade on my evening judge on Saturday. I gave him an immediate B+. I gave him an immediate B+ because at least if it ends up being wrong, it wasn't a flawed process.
What's your science behind the B+ grade?
Well, A is
why not an A- or a B
or a C+?
Well, because
what made it? Because there's a big gap between C+ Mel and B+ Judd.
Yep. Here's the difference is this. Okay, so I love the first round because it's ultra aggressive, and I think that I'd rather get talent than say, well, I'm going to hedge and trade back or something like that. So in this case, that helped them. What stops it from being an A is the back end of the draft then. Like, they didn't pick again till the 4th round, and there's a chance that the only player that plays immediately is the kicker, at least from rounds 4 through 7. So the lack of depth, I took it from what would have been an A to a B. But again, my most important thing is I appreciate the process here. And I also think it shows growth. I think it shows that Quasi is a smart enough guy to have sort of learned, understands where things are at now. And I think the Vikings deserve credit because this has not always been the case, you guys. I think they deserve credit for having what appears to be a very coherent plan. It might not work, but it's a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So a B+. You know what? I'm going to give him an A- for no reason other than I feel like I've watched zero film. I just lean on people smarter than me, like Thor and even Mel Kiper. Yeah. And so second/third hand opinion, I'm going to give him an A-. I'm on the record. I disagree with you and Mel Kiper. It's an A- for me.
Slightly higher than me. Slightly higher. You really disagree with Mel, and I don't disagree with you on that.
No. He did say something else too that I think we should talk about, but just on the assets, let's put a bow on that part of the conversation. Like, oh, they're all in. There's nothing else they can possibly do beyond. It's like, the Timberwolves example, right? Like, oh, they traded for Gobert, and now they're screwed. They can't make another move. It's like, okay, well, that's an overreaction. So right now they have a 1 and 2 5s next year, but they're likely to get at least one. Like they're certainly going to get, based on the formula, a third-round comp pick.
Right.
And they're kind of like right on the cut line, the borderline for maybe even a second comp pick, it sounds like. It depends on the math equation. But if they wind up with even like, let's just say a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 5, you know what else they're probably going to do? Because they're going to be picking, I don't know, I could see them picking anywhere between like 10th and 23rd, depending on if they make the playoffs or if like maybe the young J.J. McCarthy struggles his rookie year. But let's say they're drafting 18th or something. I could see them trading back from 18th to 26th, picking up an extra day 2 pick, maybe an extra second-round pick, third-round pick, still having a first-round pick, and still having $100 million or maybe $80 million after the JJ contract in cap space. Mm-hmm. They're going to be able to add with let's say day 1 and 2 picks. They're going to have 2 or 3 day 1 and 2 picks and room to sign like 3 big impact free agents to add to what's already a really good team. They are set up really nicely over the next 12 months.
Absolutely. And I also think that if this goes according to plan, the other thing I'll warn the draft heads is this. Be prepared for 2026 and 27 to not have a ton of picks again. Because if you're in that window, and we talked about this a little bit last week, the trade deadline comes up and you need some help, and you're in that window, are you really going to say, oh, I can't trade draft picks now? Not if you can win a Super Bowl, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, the things that you trade for are usually edge rushers or maybe a stud receiver. The Vikings already have those things.
I'm actually thinking a cornerback, possibly a very upper echelon, unless they can sign one next March, which is very viable. I mean, I think their positions that they're going to pursue with the majority of their cash in March of 25 are going to be potentially defensive tackle and corner.
Mm-hmm. So on corner, Mel Kiper Jr. said something else interesting in his just absolute savaging of the Vikings having a great, exciting weekend. Buzzkill Mel Kiper. But he said part of the reason why he gave him a C+ is he felt like cornerback was a much bigger need for them than edge rusher, because Jonathan Grenard is, 26, 27 years old, pretty young, good edge rusher. And then Andrew Van Ginkel they brought in. So those guys are on multi-year contracts. That it was, in terms of just like a need right now, someone to help shut down wide receivers that were running all over the place on this defense and Brian Flores' system was a bigger need than edge rusher. Now, maybe the Vikings didn't love the first-round cornerbacks in the way that they loved the first-round edge rushers. This is where it's like, okay,
right?
If the Vikings internally said, boy, we've got like 3 edge rushers graded above any of the cornerbacks in the first round, including we had Dallas Turner as the number 1 defensive player on the board, well, you should take him if that's the case. So he's like dinging the Vikings for not leaning into a position of need, but instead maybe drafting best player available with their second first-round pick, which I don't like that grading process either.
But Mel's confused. Mel thinks they're in for 24.
We're just killing Mel right now. 20
but
minutes
no,
of
he's
just
confused.
savaging Mel
He's following
Kiper.
too many teams. He thinks they're
Hang it up, Mel.
His perception is they're all in for 24. He's completely wrong. They're not.
24 is like a free pass year.
Well, and they could be competitive. I'm not saying that they're going to stink. They might not stink, but 24 is all about, like, again, this is a puzzle. It's a high-end puzzle, and they've got part of it right? But it's not going to be completely, I don't think it's going to be completed in their minds. And hopefully, knock on wood, guys don't get hurt. There's nothing, but I don't think it's completed until 25. And so, yes, he's right. If they were trying to win a Super Bowl in 24, he is right. You got to get, your corners, you've got numbers, but you don't have probably sufficient talent. But this isn't about that. And there are certain spots too, I would argue, you should never make a case of you have too much talent there or you have too much there. Edge rusher is one of them.
Yeah. Dude, what's kind of crazy is they lost Danielle Hunter, and the edge group is better than it was before. Like, Hunter would still be the best, I think, at age 29, 30. But
yes, sir. You're
right. They have more depth. They have Dallas Turner. Obviously, if he's a bust, then this take goes out the window. But if he's not, and if he's all of a sudden going to be here for the next 5 years as this stud young edge rusher, They lost Danielle Hunter and came out on the other side 3 months later with a better edge rushing group than they had in 2023. Mm-hmm. And even without drafting a cornerback in the first round, they added a veteran. You're going to get another year older and wiser with Mekhi Blackman, who's probably still in the mix to start, right? So yes. I don't know that their cornerback room got worse. And to your point, this is not a fix everything in one off season situation. This is a part one, get what makes sense. And then part two is what else do we still need with $100 million in cap space and a first round pick next year? Okay, cornerback and defensive tackle, check, right?
Yes.
And it just feels like, look, cornerback is probably like the hardest position to develop and cultivate and have sustained success at. It's impossible to play cornerback in the day's NFL now. It's a passing league.
It's true.
It's tough to cover these insanely talented wide receivers. You get flagged for everything. And you just look at even the final four teams, if you will, last year in the conference championship games. Like the Lions were 23rd in passing. The 49ers, we look at a really just great defense. They were 14th in passing yards against. It's not like this prerequisite where it was like with the Legion of Boom, where you just have this absurd depth at defense everywhere around. Mike Zimmer had a really good defense and a really good batch of cornerbacks, right, when they peaked in 2017 through 19, but then the wall came and they fell off a cliff, right? So I don't think like I would much rather you load up on pass rushers and give your chance a much better chance at sacking the quarterback than trying to defend wide receivers, because good quarterbacks and good wide receivers are going to get open, dude. They're just going to get open.
But to Judd's point, it doesn't have to be an either or. If you look at this as a 2-year reclamation, call it a rebuild or a retool, they're not bad enough to be in full rebuild mode. But if they went in and said, okay, so we've got some good bones here, and we're going to bring Justin Jefferson back, and we've got a couple offensive we got some great pillar pieces for this house. We now have 12 months starting with the 2024 offseason through the 2025 offseason. We've got cap space in both situations, and then we've got first round picks. We can't fix everything at once. So let's just make a list of the things that we need to go shopping for over the next 2 years. And the shopping list is not complete yet.
Right.
But they have the assets to complete the shopping list in the next 12 months.
Yes.
And maybe hell, to your point, maybe they trade that first round pick for a cornerback at the deadline or something, or before free agency next year. There's a lot of ways you can acquire a shutdown cornerback or a defensive tackle over the next 12 months.
I do think defensively the most important thing in this sort of transitionary period from being probably competitive to being Super Bowl competitive is, and this might be tough, it might not be, I have no idea, Brian Flores' continued presence. Like, to me, that's if you could keep one guy for 25 and this is going according to plan, it's probably him, right? Because I mean, it's just crystal clear that this is his vision and it's a good one. And I don't know, you can get a disciple of Brian Flores to try it, but I mean, we've seen that act before. It really helps to have the real thing. I think that's among the most important things, because it's just crystallized offensively and defensively now that, right or wrong, you've got two people that know exactly what they want. And I would much rather start from that point than not.
Yeah. I want him to get another head coaching job at some point. Maybe if that lawsuit could linger like another year and change, and then he can be a 10-year head coach and go win a Super Bowl.
I wonder what the payday is like for him right now here, because I mean the Wilfs as the Wilfs won't skimp on that.
He's got to be one of the highest paid coordinators, right?
I would think so, but I mean, he's a guy, and I don't think O'Connell has an ego, but I don't think it's in that vein. I don't think O'Connell would object to him being very well paid.
No, oh God, no.
I
mean, I think O'Connell is. I don't think there's any sort of like insecurity, fragile ego there at all. So, okay, there's a couple other things here to get to before the episode's over, including the Vikings may have won the UDFA bidding war for the second straight offseason. So we'll get to that here. But we have a smoker winner, or I should say we have a winner of the Smokin' Hot Takes desk from the draft party at the Fillmore, courtesy of Northern Fire Barbecue and Grilling Supply. Dana Quinn of Eden Prairie, who submitted his entry, has won the smoker, courtesy of Northern Fire Barbecue and Grilling. Judd, tell the audience if they if they aren't really in the know about this amazing place. Tell
Oh
them.
yeah, roll that B-roll. Look at those sauce walls right there. We're talking dry rub walls. We're talking the sauce selection. This is, for lack of a better term, this is the best barbecue playground in town. 70 different, and you're checking out some of them right there, gas grills, over 150 dry rubs. Northern Fire, also the only Twin Eagle dealer in the Twin Cities carrying luxury outdoor grill equipment. There also are unique cuts of meat and seafood. In short, if you love barbecue and this time of year you're getting set to get outside and do a lot of barbecue work, Northern Fire has you covered. Just go to their website, northernfirebbq.com, or check them out at their location just north of Highway 62 on Shady Oak Road. We all enjoyed delivering those hot takes, and we enjoyed doing it at the Northern Fire Grilling and Barbecue Supply Smoker.
Amen. Also, Dex, Aquaside is here as we approach the lake months in the state of Minnesota.
That's right. As the weather warms up and you go up to the cabin to get the dock in, you might have noticed there's something at the bottom of the lake, and you don't know what the heck that is. Well, our friends at Aquaside can help you diagnose what's going on in there. They can also help you get rid of it with their Aquaside pellets, which are safe products registered with both the EPA and the DNR. So these aren't some willy-nilly products you're throwing into your lake or pond. You can go to aquaside.com, where shipping is free also on their products. Go to aquaside.com to learn more.
And a shout out to the exclusive personal injury law firm of Purple Daily, our friends at Nicolay Law. Now, Nicolay Law, very proud to serve the Twin Cities community. They are just your everyday folks here in the Minneapolis Twin Cities area, the ones you see at the gas station, walking the dog, or at your local watering hole. The only difference is they are normal folks who happen to have law degrees to help you get the compensation you deserve after an unexpected accident. Start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com. Get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get nicolaylaw.com. So last year, the Vikings grabbed Ivan Pace Jr. from Cincinnati. He was the most productive linebacker in all of college football, but because of like some measurable things, like he's kind of undersized, shorter arms, etc., he somehow went undrafted. The Vikings swooped in and said, "Oh, we're going to make you a priority undrafted free agent signing." And he was a green dot guy on like day 2 of training camp. They're like, "Okay, you're really good. We trust you to make the calls and communicate." And he was their most effective linebacker last year. So this year, the Vikings also grabbed the highest rated on the consensus big boards, the highest rated undrafted free agent. Edge rusher Gabriel Murphy from UCLA had a 4th round grade by NFL.com and consensus big boards. He ranked 7th in the nation last year with 61 pressures, and his 87.6 pass rushing grade ranked 28th among qualifiers and was just below Vikings first round pick Dallas Turner in terms of pass rush grade via PFF last year. Bring Me the News had that nugget. But he has very short arms, and he's a little bit undersized for an edge rusher, which is part of the reason why he went undrafted. But did they just find another Ivan Pace, different position, but like, did they find another hidden gem here in the UDFA bin? That's the question.
And much to Kiper's dismay, again, it's an edge rusher. You don't need any more edges, right? No, I think this is great. And it does show the Vikings' willingness to pay the UDFAs, to me, because that's the most important thing. If you don't get drafted, one, you're trying to find a place where you clearly fit. But 2, if a team comes to you and says, we're gonna pay you pretty damn well, guess what? You're going to sign. The last 2 years post-draft, Ivan Pace, what was it? Andre Carter, who didn't pan out yet, but was still really well paid and still might pan out. And now Gabriel Murphy. I think this is absolutely fantastic, because you know what? It only cost you money. Like, you didn't use a draft pick.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he fell, but you didn't use a draft pick. And if this is how you, and I'm not excusing it, but this is a little bit how you try to make up for the whiffs of 22 as well. Because, Ivan Pace beat out Brian Asamoah, who looks like he's probably a flop. Okay, that sucks. That's a bad miss, I guess. Mm-hmm. But if you can say, okay, not to make an excuse here, but we at least backfilled that spot with a really good player, it's more palatable. So I think this approach to the UDFA class is fantastic because, again, it comes down to are you willing to spend? And even in a salary cap league, there are definitely certain things that you can spend on. The Vikings' willingness to do this goes back to what, Phil, we've talked about for a long time, which is the Wilfs don't skimp on things like this.
And it's usually like, I don't know what the figure is now that the cap keeps going up, but like you pay like $300,000 or don't you give a guy like a priority UDFA gets like a nice fat 6-figure bonus, right? Like a $300,000 bonus.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a salary cap that's $252 million. So it's a fraction of a percentage of what you're paying your overall team.
Right.
And if you whiff on it, it doesn't put a dent at all into your financial situation. But if you're right, you wind up with an Ivan Pace Jr. who's probably going to be a multi-year starter for this team. So,
little tease too. We'll kind of break some of these guys down in depth more on Purple Daily on Draft on Monday afternoon as well. Another guy to watch in this list that Miles really likes, Ty James, a wide receiver that they drafted out of Mercer. Huge dude, 6'2", 200 pounds, crazy yards per catch. He had 1,000-yard seasons in back-to-back years at Mercer, caught 30 touchdowns in his college career. So we have some questions about the depth of wide receiver.
yeah.
They might have also gotten a steal here in Ty James.
Interesting. Yeah, those guys. So Declan with Tyler Fornes and Miles Gorham on Purple Daily on Draft. That's going to come out later on this Monday, so you can get a really deep dive into just the draft itself, but also the undrafted free agent class. So, all right, it's going to be several months until we play this regularly again, but I feel like we should.
I want a mock!
Give it one last go around here, because on this Monday after the 2024 NFL draft, we have way too early 2025 mock drafts coming out, gentlemen. We don't know who any of these players are except for some of the quarterbacks, because we obviously have not gone this deep into our draft conversations. But let me fly through this. It's also interesting to see where these websites have the Vikings drafting, because it kind of shows like who they think is going to be crappy and whatnot. But Pro Football Focus has one here, and they say this one is for the true sickos, the 2025 way too early mock draft.
I love how they're taking that. Our 25 draft is for the true sickos. Yahoo's is for only the slightly sick.
No, I think they mean just like any 2025 mock draft is for sickos.
Okay, good.
That's how I interpret this.
That makes more sense.
So they've got the Panthers drafting number 1 overall, taking Tennessee edge rusher James Pierce Jr. They have the Patriots drafting 2nd, which checks out to me. Drafting LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell. And then I'm going to skim here, but Broncos drafting 3rd, Titans drafting 4th, Giants drafting 5th, and taking the first quarterback off the board.
See you later, Brian Dable.
Carson Beck from Georgia.
Yeah,
Do you think Dable deserves to be fired if the Daniel Jones thing? I'd like to see Dable with a new quarterback.
No, but in that market, I think there's a very good chance you get blown out.
I guess one of my buddies is a Giants fan, and he's like, I want to see Dable. I didn't want them to draft a quarterback this year because I want to see Dable make it work in the bed that he made with Daniel Jones. And if not, fire him. Like, he's a good coach. He's just stuck with Daniel Jones. But if he was the one in the room advocating for Daniel Jones' contract,
right?
I think that means let Brian Dable coach, and the front office needs to know better than $40 million for Daniel Jones. But anyways, Commanders drafting 6th, Cardinals drafting 7th, Vikings drafting 8th. So they would be like a 6-win team.
I'm glad they have their pick then. Yep.
And they would take, to our point earlier, out of Notre Dame, cornerback Benjamin Morrison.
I want a mock!
Oh, a Mackey favorite.
Well, any Notre Dame guy would be.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know who he is. I'm just saying that you would.
He'd be the 2nd cornerback off the board. He posted an 85 coverage grade in 2023, breaking up 8 passes, picking off 3 more along the way. A top-tier cornerback talent. There's not much else. Right in front of Shadur Sanders going 9th to the Raiders.
Is that Deion approved?
I think the Raiders would be.
Yeah, I think
I don't
so
know
too.
that the 9th overall pick would be Dion approved.
Dion saying he's going to place all of his players where he wants, and he's not going to. That's
His other guy, Travis Hunter, going 12th to the Buccaneers.
I do love him. He is a athletic freak. Travis Hunter is unbelievable.
So in this scenario, the Vikings would draft what could be a shutdown corner with their first round pick after spending money on whatever else in free agency 6 weeks before the draft. So.
You know, if I was forced to do a 2025 mock, basically the day after the draft, wouldn't you start by having some just bizarre like drafting first team? Like Carolina's so boring. Wouldn't you like just have some team that no one would expect and just say,
like the
know,
Cowboys?
Cowboys. No, they're gonna plummet. They're gonna plummet. Like the
which they
Chiefs
might,
drafting
by the way.
third or something. I mean, just mix it up. Come on.
I think like let me see where they have the Cowboys. Weird vibes, man. Like it almost feels like Jerry Jones is saying, "Oh, you didn't want to redo your contract to help the team? Let's see if you can make $55 million without any talent being added around you." Okay.
I read a theory where what he's doing is purposely tanking to set up for the emergence of Bill Belichick.
And then with the 25th, this doesn't jive though. They have the Cowboys with the 25th pick, which would mean they get to like the division round. I guess this could check out. And then they draft Quinn Ewers, the quarterback from Texas, to replace Dak Prescott. So I guess they could get back, like go win 11 games again, get back to the division round, and then.
The Cowboys drafting first is far more delicious.
Yeah, it would be funny. It'd be hilarious. So, all right, there's your 2025 mock draft update on Purple Daily. And the three of us were just like email threads last night. I feel like we have weeks and weeks of fun topics and questions, Vikings offseason workouts. So we're going to get to report on JJ McCarthy on this show. But yeah, we're really excited for. Don't think that this show shuts down. Certainly after the season, as we've shown you, it doesn't shut down after the draft. We got the schedule likely coming out next week sometime, and then all sorts of fun stuff in the weeks leading up to Vikings training camp, as the Vikings may have found their franchise quarterback in JJ McCarthy.
Hopefully, for their sake. Be a lot more fun. Be a lot more fun if we finally have that guy.
Yep.
Who works.
All right, guys. Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.